Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Pinch of Salt, where we'll be breaking down each of the 10 NACL teams every day the last 10 days leading up to the NACL regular season beginning. If you did miss our first episode, this is episode number 2. We'll be talking about LiT Esports. Make sure to go check out the wildcard recap because it was a pretty good one, and we'll be talking about each of these teams every day, as we said, until the NACL takes part. We have another team to talk about here, and that is LiT Esports, a team that we are pretty familiar with, Hawk, going through the NACL qualifiers and now making their way up to the NACL stage. And this is a bit of an interesting one here because of the fact that all 5 of the players are going to be coming back for the start of the season. They're the only team to have everybody make it all the way back and be just running the same crew once again.
Grapes, dare I say that this team is a goddamn Salty Runback. It's so beautiful to see it. And with good reason, because LiT promoted into the Challengers League with these 5 players. Dragoon is finally going to get his due, and it is just beautiful to see. And, you know, look, they may have promoted in. It's super exciting, but because they promoted in as well, it meant they ended up a little bit lower on the fan poll, right? They are our number 19. They're actually tied for 8th, but they had more last place votes. So we had to tie break from them. But, you know, people think they're going to be a little bit lower because of the fact that they were playing in promotion last year. None of these players have any experience at the Challengers League level, and yet I'm personally very excited about this team just for some of the players and the names that we have here.
Running down the list once again, in case you are unfamiliar, is Dragoon, Kisno, Messages, Rockboom, and Plux. There was some conversations about Plux, you know, kind of just serving as a temporary sub in the summer split, but it seems like LiT and him both decided that they wanted to have another go at it here for spring 2024.
Well.
We saw Plux start CLG the year off on CLG Faith a year ago, and so we'll get another opportunity here in the Challengers League. Let's talk about some of the highlights here for this team, Hawk. What do you like about LiT Esports?
Well, I wrote it right there. This squad is hungry. They promoted into the Challengers League. Some of them promoted twice into the Challengers League last year. They have like 3 of the top 10 players in Champions Queue right now. Kisno is like number 4. It's wild. This guy was a nobody in Spring Split last year, by the way, if you don't remember that. And in general, we've talked to a few of these players on this show and, you know, outside of it as well. And this is a team full of players that are so hungry to prove themselves, and they have put in the work to try to make that happen, right? And I think that really, to me, is so exciting about this team. It doesn't feel like they will accept being bad. They will, even if they start rough, this is a team that's going to grind their asses off so that they can be competitive later on. And I think that's just something I'm really looking forward to with this.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Kisno once again, what a meteoric rise this player had.
It's insane.
From,
insane.
You know, being somebody that a lot of us didn't really know anything about going into 2023, to impressing some on CB Gaming, a roster that you know, took a game off of Native in the first week of the GSL bracket, but then kind of fell out from there, to then being promoted into Supernova, a team that was very competitive, but then had Hyper actually end up leaving their team to go join FlyFam, and then promoting not once but twice into the NACL.
Crazy.
And looking better and better every single week that he played. It seemed like this guy, when he went up to Supernova for the first time, did feel like you know, he was struggling, even when he was on some of his more comfortable picks. But by the end of summer, definitely seemed like one of the stronger junglers in Tier 3, and it still feels like he has so much more room to grow.
And that's the thing. At this point, Kisno does not feel like a player in over his head. And I think that is like, to get to that point so quickly is amazing. So, you know, even if at the beginning of the split, he might look in over his head, but with how quickly he improved at the Tier 3 level, I have no doubt it could be similar to Tier 2.
Yeah, and once again, just the fact that we have a full 5-man runback, it just feels so good, especially for this LiT team who had Dragoon and Kisno with their opportunities taken away from them after they promoted the first time. This time, not only do they get their spots again, but so do everybody else. We've talked to Messages on this show a bunch of times about how he really wants to prove himself at this level, and he took a big jump going into 2023.
Yeah.
And then the bottom side as well, with Rockboom being a player that, again, just really surprised some people, going from just this collegiate marksman on St. Clair to being one of the top bot lanes in that promotion tournament going into Tier 2. And of course, Plux being somebody who we've seen on and off throughout the last couple of years, but has looked solid when given the right opportunities. And I think the biggest thing is he admittedly didn't have a ton of time to practice when he was with LiT last year. Subbing in, was working like a full-time job. We'll see if that actually ends up changing this time around, and if they're going to be able to actually scrim a lot and get a lot of practice together, because as you said, Hawk, with the work ethic of these guys and also the previous experience that they have with each other going back to summer, it's going to be, I think, a team that if they can find their footing, they're going to find it quick at the start of the split, and might make a early push towards the top, get a couple of wins to start things off before the rest of these teams really build up that synergy.
Right, and that synergy, I feel like, is kind of their greatest weakness and their greatest curse as well, Grapes, right? Because it is the same 5 that promoted in. They all now have the opportunity to improve together. But I notice you put under your concerns, they've also collectively have 0 games of Challengers League under their belt. The only thing close is that Messages subbed for The Last Dance in promotion.
Well, Plux played a couple games for CLG Faith, but that was like as a sub as well.
Oh, right. Okay, you're right.
Back in the spring. But again, nobody's
but
gotten
very
that
little,
full,
very little. Yeah.
They're all considered rookies. If there was like a Rookie of the Year award
they
for
would all
Challengers,
be in the mix.
which they aren't, they're all eligible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like I feel like this team, it kind of almost plays into my concern as well, maybe, where they don't have the experience at this level, so they might be out of their element at the beginning. And Grapes, I love all these players, and I think they're all very, very good. And I think all these players would be deserving of being in the Challengers League as like the exciting developmental piece on an established Challengers roster. But with all of them playing together, I think they're all going to need to play at a higher level than we've seen them before. And that's crazy to say because they're playing at already such a high level. But they're going to need to continue to get better if they're going to cut it, because they were great in Tier 3. But they're not going to beat some of the big boys that we have here.
Yeah, I think Dragoon is the closest to like a quote-unquote known quantity because he's been around for such a long time, been a really good top laner in Tier 3 for the last couple of years. But, even he has a lot of opportunities to grow. We've seen him continue to expand his champion pool, find these niche counter picks that work well for him. And then the other guys, I mean, they really are raw and I think have a high ceiling that they can continue to improve upon. The question is, as you said, can they all get there? Because if they do, good chances for them to start off hot and kind of stay on that trajectory. If not, we're probably looking at them being right around this 8th to 9th range that a lot of the fans, I think, predicted.
And when we talk about players like Messages and Rockboom as well, yeah, like Dragoon and Plux, they have at least played a long time. But Kisno, Messages, and Rockboom, they, between all of them, have, 3 players, 4 years of competitive experience at this level, right? Messages played 2022 and 2023, but 2022 was, not at this upper echelon, so he leveled up a lot between those 2 years. And then everybody played in 2023. Kisno, Rockboom, they were rookies that year, right? So not only do they not have experience at the Challengers League level, these guys just don't have a lot of competitive experience. Very exciting players, incredibly great to watch, and their individual performance speaks for itself in Tier 3. But again, it's a whole new ball game up here, and I think that's gonna be a big question mark as we move forward.
I know we mentioned last episode with Wildcard that a lot of the players were pretty experienced, specifically towards the bot lane where Aaron has had some time in Tier 2. We feel like he, might have his times where, against some of the top ADCs in Tier 2, maybe didn't always look the best back when he was a part of CLG Faith. I feel like Rockboom has the opportunity to really surprise some people. I mean, he was surprising people in Tier 3. He was surprising people in the promotion tournament. And I feel like there's just another level that he can potentially unlock as well, where I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because we were covering this guy and covering Tier 3 for the last year or so, but
Look,
I think that Rock Boom is very strong, has really good mechanics, and can match, kind of hand for hand against some of the top ADCs that we have here in this ecosystem.
I feel like Rock Boom is probably the player we have seen the fewest games from out of anyone on this team in competitive. And
I think you're right.
pretty much every game we've seen from Rock Boom has been pretty good. So I'm with you. Like, the talent's here. They have the raw talent, but they have to turn it into refined talent, right? And that's going to be the big question. I think, Grapes, maybe that can bring us into our higher, lower, or just right as far as where LiT Esports is being power ranked. Where should they be, right? Because I think most of the fans see this as 5 rookies, unproven. We don't think that they can hack it against the big boys. But I feel like for me personally, when you look at players like especially these middle 3 and even Dragoon, who's been around a while, but I mean, they continually find ways to level up, and they've done it so quickly. They've done it together. I think LiT Esports, I think they might have a chance, and I understand why they've been rated low, but Grapes, I'm going to say I would rate them higher.
I got to be careful because I said I want to rate Wildcard a little bit higher. My heart right now is telling me I want to rate LiT a little bit higher. Where I'm thinking about like the next teams, and do I want to rate them lower? I don't know necessarily. But I do agree. Like I feel very confident about the amount that these players can continue to improve. And if you ask me right now to power rank the relative combined strength of each individual player on each roster in the NACL, I think this could be like a fair assessment. But with the synergy that they have, the unique draft strategies that we saw from them, especially towards the end of the season, and how much we know that these players still have to grow, I'm going to go higher with you as well. I might regret it later when I have to rank somebody a little bit lower.
Someone's going to have to go lower.
Someone's going to have to go down. But right now, I'm high on LiT. I've been high on LiT, except for when they, struggled a little bit towards the end leading into the promotion tournament. Maybe I was a little bit down on them then. But for most of the season, I was pretty high on this LiT Esports team. And I'm going to continue that trend going into 2024.
Well, we are buying into the LiT hype. The 5 rookies. We'll see if they can pull it off. 8 more teams to break down. Make sure you check out yesterday's wildcard episode. This has been LiT Esports. This has been Salty Runback. This has been Hawk and Grapes. Check in tomorrow for our number 8 seeded team, as we are now just 9 days away from the start of the Challengers League tournament. Let us know at Salty Runback Pod how you feel about these teams